we've always known that the way to sell B2B better is to think of your customers as people. Stop looking at them like a giant cemented building or a glass tower. Look at it as if you're talking to a person.
Correct.
And that has rarely worked well, to be honest. In practice, I have seen that a lot of the clients that we work with, they agree with this, but they don't know how to really implement this sentiment. And the way around that I've noticed that seems to work well is to tell them that, okay, humanize your customers, but make sure that they can look at you as a person as well. Make sure that they can look at your brand and see a person there. See that there is a particular person with a particular kind of tone, a way of speaking, who's talking to me. And that is something that makes all the difference. So, B2B marketing. Let's jump right into it. What exactly did B2B marketing look like, say, 30, 40, 50 years ago? Because what we heard is that marketing is an art as old as selling itself. Like when the first clause of capitalism came into our fair humanity on, stages where selling became so important. Marketing has been around since that time. Give that kind of an aspiration. Give that aspiration that this is a product that you want to buy, right? And earliest, I'm sure, was a little more B2C than most. When it comes to B2B marketing, I think we fail to realize how new it is. How, despite it being going on for like 50 years tops, 50, 60, 70 years tops, around that time, yeah. It's really new, right? So when it started, or what did that look like?
The B2B marketing space, as you said, is very new, but still it has seen some transitions, right? And with digital coming into the picture, it's all very new to B2B businesses, right? Earlier, it was only like you walk into a company's building and then you try to make a personal connection with the person. That was all in person, right? And with digital coming in, with the pandemic coming in and stuff like that, right? It has evolved so much that now you're not meeting the person that you're doing business with on a daily basis, or you don't get a very little chance to meet those people. Then how do you create that personalization and impact? And that's, I think, something that B2B business are still struggling with. They're just still figuring it out that, okay, I'm not meeting this person. I'm not taking them out for dinner. I'm not taking them out for drinks or things like that. How do I still make that personal connect? I think that's the biggest problem that has been there. Earlier, it was like, okay, let me just give them a branded stress ball or a pen that is branded and it'll create that connect. But now it's no longer there. Like that's where the struggle primarily is, I feel.
Yeah. And I'm going to say something that I think is controversial. Any B2B marketing before, say, the 2000s or maybe the 1990s, I don't think that was marketing at all. I think it was sales. It was sales, right? So B2B marketing in its earliest form that we try to sort of, draw from this pedigree of B2B marketing, it was actually sales. It was very people-led sort of interactions. And then with the advent of digital, you have more and more companies stepping into the field with, hey, we're going to target you. We know that you're human. We know that you might be running $1 million company, but you're still on the Facebook like the rest of us schmucks. So that's where we're going to sell to you. That's where we're going to come to you with this content, with these values, and use our marketing shops to get you to buy from us. Right? So I think that's what the transition's been, right?
Correct. And I think that transition also taken, they've also adopted it very slow, right? Because with digital being new, right? B2C are always very fast to adopt, right? They knew that, okay, this is the person that we are targeting. Let's do these 5 things and we'll get to that person. B2B is far more difficult because you then don't know who's the decision maker, right? Who you are talking to, who you need to target. You can't target a company out there. You can, but then there are hundreds and thousands of people in that company. Who do you target? And then the target audience and how do you tap onto that exact person then becomes a problem. And that's I think the biggest confusion that's been there, that, okay, now I know that there's all digital, there's all social, there's all ads and everything, but how do I exactly reach the person? Otherwise, I would have just picked my phone and called that person and went out with them. Like, now, how do I do this? Like, that's the confusion, I think, for the longest time.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I run a company, but I would say maybe 1 in 20, 30 ads on YouTube are actually businesses looking to sell to me. And they have more to gain, right? Like they have the ticket size there is vastly different than say an ad about hair oil, which is also badly targeted towards me. But like I'd expect B2B companies to take more of a risk there.
Yeah, but then where is this transitioning into is what we were talking about right earlier. That okay, there was B2B marketing and sales tactic, and there's a B2C marketing and sales tactic where where a company is talking to the direct consumer, or where a company is talking to a company. Now we are talking about a company talking to a person working for a company, right? That's a very different ball game and a very different marketing and sales strategy. So how do you then change your strategies is what the question is, right? So yeah, I mean let's open it up for that.
So essentially B2B needs to go back to its roots, which was sales, and get far more personalized. We need to move away from B2C marketing is a complete beast in itself. B2B marketing is something that has gradually stepped into the digital field. What we're looking at is B2P marketing, business to person marketing, which is this new concept that stepped in, which says that talk to humans and talk like humans. That's, I think, the basic premise behind it. Right?
And also because people are not driven, like B2B primarily was driven by logic and by ROIs, right? That's and the features of the product. You used to show, okay, I have these 10 features that my product has, and please buy it because this is the ROI and this is the efficiency that will bring in and all those things. But at the end of the day, we are selling to people, and they are driven by emotions, and they are driven by, like, I feel that the 2 or 3 factors that drive a sale for a person, be it they buy for a company or they're buying for themselves or their consumption or their family's consumption, is one, relatability, right? They relate with the product or the service that they're buying. They like the person that they're dealing with, or the company or the product that they're dealing with, right? And they have a very strong intent to buy, right? I think these are the 3 things which a B2C or a B2B, beat any field, these are the 3 things that drive a sale, right? So if a B2B business is not looking at a person and saying, hey, will this person like me? Like, as a company, will they emotionally connect with me? If they're not asking that question, I think there's no sale there. Like, then it's still they're talking about features. I think people do care about features, but then, like, there are very similar products out there. Why does a Salesforce sell over HubSpot, or a HubSpot sell over Salesforce? It's a very thin line, right? And then at the end of the day, if HubSpot's marketing strategy is more personalized, talks more about people and emotion, I think that's what drives them the sale, and that's what we are seeing in the recent past, right?
Yeah, people buy with emotions, and explain with logic, what they've actually purchased.
Correct.
And when you're buying for a 50 people team, or 100 people, or 2,000 people team, you have to explain with logic. It can't be. In B2C, you would have a purchase where it's that, hey, I want to try this out. We're going to go ahead and do this. When you're doing that for an enterprise or a mid-market company, there has to be a logic behind it.
Correct. And we were reading this research, right, recently, where it said that for a B2C purchase to happen, the decision maker is one person, or at max your spouse, right? Or probably at max you're buying for your family, something, probably furniture or something like that. But for a B2B, like, it's growing. The decision makers, at an average, a company has been having a B2B product company has been having 5 to 6 decision maker, which has now grown up to 7 to 8 on an average. So how do you buy for 7 to 8 people, right? Those are the decision maker, and the users are then probably 50. When we help HubSpot sell, we've seen companies who have been buying for 500 sales folks, right, in their company. How do you make a decision, and how do you, like, you can't drop the ball and say that I'll not care about features and only talk about emotions. But then those 7 people need to be emotionally invested in that decision making process. And it's a like, buying is also a very hard job, right? For someone who's buying a product for 50 or 100 people at the company, it's a very thankless kind of a decision, where if it works, the product was good. If it didn't work, like, you made a bad buying decision. So it's super difficult for someone to buy, and purely, they can't go purely by emotion. They can't purely go by numbers. It has to be a mix of both.
One of the things we've seen in, I remember this, since we're on the topic of HubSpot, Salesforce and all this, right? one of the videos that HubSpot had on what is HubSpot anyway, right? That was like, it's a very apt example of sell for the emotion, but also show the right kind of value for it.
Those are kind of things. And in fact, now brands are moving more and more towards expressing their emotion, right? One of the things I read recently is if you remove all your logos and all your brand colors and stuff like that from your social media handles and your website, can someone still come to your website or your social media and recognize you as a brand, right? That's if you're throwing that emotion to people and they can still catch it, right? That's the power that a brand needs to have, be it a B2C, be it B2B. That's the kind of stuff that's needed. And that's rarely you will see, like every social media post, people are putting their logos there because they don't have an identity, right? That they don't have that connect with the audience, that they have to put in that logo on the top right or the top left to say that, hey, we have this, like, please recognize us. Yeah, that's what is, I think, wrong, and that's not a lot of brands are following at the moment.
So again, learning from B2C, how to humanize yourself and your customers, right? And when I say humanize yourself and customers, the reason why I started pushing for this is that we've always known that the way to sell B2B better is to think of your customers as people. Stop looking at them like a giant cemented building or a glass tower. Look at it as if you're talking to a person.
Correct.
And that has rarely worked well, to be honest. In practice, I have seen that a lot of the clients that we work with, they agree with this, but they don't know how to really implement this sentiment. And the way around that I've noticed that seems to work well is to tell them that, okay, humanize your customers, but make sure that they can look at you as a person as well. Make sure that they can look at your brand and see a person there. See that there is a particular person with a particular kind of tone, a way of speaking, who's talking to me. And that is something that makes all the difference. So someone like, so in B2C, I would say Bendy's does this phenomenally well. Like their Twitter channel their Twitter profile it's honestly, it's an art in the way that they engage. And it has really raised the collective B2C experience of every single brand that Wendy interacts with. They have to be witty. They have to be on their feet. So when Wendy is burning Burger King or when Wendy is burning McDonald's for, being a clown or something like that, they have to respond in kind. Yeah. They have to act like a person to actually respond there.
And I think these kind of tactics, like now brands like Uber, Ola, they also interact on a like regular basis on Twitter, right? That's the kind of fun personality people do appreciate, right? And that's on the B2C side, but still, like that's the kind of things that they're doing.
Essentially, leveraging the emotional motivators is where this comes to. So what's a good B2B brand where you've seen this happen? Where you've seen that these guys have really nailed that down?
I think one brand that I really that really stands out all of the B2B in the B2B space is Slack, right? How they have built a huge brand, right there, and build a community around it as well, right? A lot of their social handles and their website talks about how you're part of one community, right? You're part of, and they're doing webinars to help improve your productivity and stuff like that, and all like and another is HubSpot, right? Where they are creating a lot of videos and stuff to help the community, and there's a community forum where people can ask questions and respond back to it, and then it feels like they're all in the same boat, right? We're all struggling with your marketing and sales problems and the processes, and we're all together as one big huge family and facing the same problems and looking for solutions, and everybody helping everybody else. And that's what they're doing, and that's what's been working for them.
Yeah. No, definitely. And at this point, I feel like we need to call out the stoics of the B2B marketing industry, the ones where when you look at the kind of marketing that's being put out and you know that there is a marketing retainer that they're trying to burn through. Like there's nothing really of essence or of value there, but that there is the thing that we hate when someone says that they wanted their marketing, which is hygiene. Right? It's such a diplomatic word. It is one where we don't expect results because we're not going for that, but we just want to we want our presence to be known.
But then, I'll ask, wanted your thoughts on it. Why should a B2B company do social at this point, right? That's been a big question, and a lot of clients that come to us also ask us this question in it's not driving you leads, right? Rarely does, right? It's if you're doing branding, you need to have a lot of money there. Then why should someone invest into that? Huge investment goes into doing social and building that brand persona and stuff like that. And why should a brand in today's age do it?
I would say there are two reasons. One is that social is not a young man's game anymore. It is not one where only the younger teens and such are on social. You have your actual customer base is on social right now. It is a huge loss for your organization if you're not leveraging social right. And the second thing that we generally push for, while we try to get the brand tone in place, while we try to make the brand more personable, is that the way to get leads through social is through individual accounts, through your founder profiles, which are reinforcing the company message, right? And that is which is one of the greatest lead drivers when it comes to a company's needs. It is one of the greatest demand generation tools out there, is to have your brand ethos, your product, and the solutions that your product provides, right? Not the features, the actual impact that it has. To have that on social is one of the best things you can do for your brand. It's just that the way to sell has become more individual driven. It has become more founder or leadership team driven. And to have a brand that actually acts human fixes all of that, right? Like, when you have social posts which are essentially reuse templates that are talking about, hey, use us, feature 1, feature 2, feature 3, and right? Folks are tired of that. On the other hand, I saw this, there's this one ad campaign I've seen from this company called Uberflip. And those guys nail it. Like, the ad starts off as a typical B2B platform ad where they're talking about, so this is an AI generated tool. Sorry, not an AI generated one. I'm stuck on ChatGPT right now. It's a typical B2B platform that starts talking about, hey, we're a platform that does A, B, and C using keyword A, keyword B, keyword C, all of that. And then the camera turns to the person on the other side and then, whoa.
Slow down, Sheldon. How about you explain it to me like I'm 5?
Uberflip lets you use your toys to make more friends.
The ad just takes it from there. Like, we'll probably show a snippet on the screen. That ad is on point. It appeals to the storyteller and the marketer in me because it nails both of those narratives over there.
So I was reading through this, and there was a study conducted by Google and Corporate Executive Board, which said that the B2B buyers are 50% more likely to make a purchase based on their personal preference and a strong emotional connect. And that's only 15% for B2C customers. I mean, I had this notion that B2C customers are more inclined towards emotional decision making rather than a B2B customer. Right? But the study shows something else. Where is this taking us?
I have no idea. Like, I fully expected that people watch a James Bond movie and immediately they walk out. They're like, oh, I want to get a Omega Speedmaster or whatever that watch it is. Shameful that I don't remember. But I fully expected that to be the case, right? But I just think there's these cycles that happen in marketing where when every single B2C ad is emotion driven, none of them are. It just loses it loses the picture, right? It doesn't work that way. And maybe that's working maybe it's working the other way around as well. That since every single B2B ad is an appeal to my logic and sense of reasoning, maybe I just like the ones which are far more emotional.
They're far more. And emotion does not only need to be your ad or your social media. It's just like people full of like crying and like that emotion that we talk about. It's not about that, right? Emotion in any form, right? Which creates that personal connect.
The way you talk to me, it can be the tone, it can be the content, it can be just the way that your people are interacting with my people, the sales team that's doing that kind of interaction. Every single step of that is emotion.
Having one personality, and we've been talking about this, right? That a brand needs to project that one personality, right? A B2B brand needs to project that one personality that it has. But a lot of time that does not, brands very often faced this issue of maintaining that one brand voice, right? We've seen this like, and a typical example was one of our clients, right? You remember where they were struggling with their office is very fun loving and very, all of that, right? But their outwards image of the brand was very serious. Then how do you project that one image, right? And one tonality, and that happens when you switch agencies, when you switch the management changes and all of that, and then that tone dilutes into something else, and the customers are like not able to connect anymore because it's not the brand that it was, right? So how do we tackle that? Like with all of this changing, the management changing, the outlook of the brand changing, how does a brand maintain that? That is a question.
Yeah, I think it's very foundational there. It's that, of course, like your people change, agencies might change, the campaign you're running changes as well. But when it comes to a brand, when it comes to a branding, that goes far beyond just the logo and the image guidelines that you set. The brand needs to define the kind of tone that you have, the importance of your customers to yourself, and vice versa, and how you want to be. What's the problem that you want to solve in the world, right? As long as those are foundational, as long as those are a part of your being as that brand, I think that stays very consistent. Like, for example, Zendesk has a very help your audience, help yourself sort of brand voice, right? Like there's this one ad I remember by Zendesk, and it was so on point. It was essentially this really old lady and gentleman sitting on a chair and talking about how the relationship has been.
When we first met, his customer service was just awful.
I didn't think I had the time or the resources for it.
I would call.
She would call.
I would email.
I was not very good at listening in those days. I was very overwhelmed.
Oh.
So, what happened?
Well, that's when I got Zendesk for my customer service.
That made it a real relationship.
That's the point. That's the inflection point at which I will put Zendesk at the top of my list for a solution like that and be like, hey, I want to use this. I'm going to try and force fit the features to my problem then, instead of the other way around. Instead of me listening to the features and then thinking about that, okay, can they solve my problem or not? Which is something that 15 of Zendesk's other competitors are probably doing.
And I feel not every out-of-the-box product or service out there will solve 100% of your business problem, right? If it would have, then people or bigger companies will not go out there and build their own products, right? Because the off-the-shelf products do not solve 100% of it. Then it's all comes down to if the decision maker is comfortable going for A or going for B. Because A will have some problems, B will have some problems, but someone who is more inclined and emotionally connected to A will justify it in a manner that, hey, these 7 things out of the 10 that A solves for us, let's go with this, right? Because I am more inclined towards it. I'll justify it however I want to, rather than going for B is plain solving those like other 7 problems out of the 10. But I'm like, I don't like this product anymore. And I think that's what brings us to what are those high impact motivators, emotional motivators that really help you drive that sale or help you connect better to the B2B audience, right? So, and HBR did this study and came up with these high impact motivators that really does drive that decision making.
When it comes to the emotional motivators, right? So feeling a sense of thrill, caring about like social well-being or protecting the environment and such, right? And standing as an outlier, making me feel like I'm an outlier in my industry, right? So these are, I think again, those emotional motivators are there. And I'm sure their impact is vastly different for B2B compared to B2C, and maybe not in the direction that we think it is. But that aside, as you mentioned, right, you have a problem, right? You have multiple solutions which solve part of that problem really well, and for other parts you have to tweak around a little.
Yeah,
that's the case with most solutions when it comes to enterprise tools. And again, there's a problem, there's the cost, and all of that. And for me to actually consider a solution and get my hands dirty, get knee deep in the mud and sift around to figure out if they can solve it for me or not, happens when that emotional motivation is already in effect. Because I'm not going to seriously consider a product that looks like every other product out there. The one that I will stick to is the one that I remember. Like, it is uncanny how many of our customers have approached us and started the conversation with, "Hey, I love the copy on your website. This is one of the reasons why we approached you." And these are folks who are in technology, they're in fintech, they're education brands, brands which rarely go for the kind of witty tone that we put out or the kind of personable tone that we're putting out there, right? But the kind of connection that makes, the kind of, I'm repeating this word, but emotional motivation that has, I think that is one of the biggest influences when it comes to making that purchase. And that is one thing that B2B marketers have to remember. I think roughly in a survey of B2B marketing professionals, around 80% folks said that social, which is one of the most emotional channels out there, that social was one of the biggest influencers for their sales. And that is something we have to keep in mind. We have to stick by personable marketing. We have to stick by selling to a person as a person, rather than try to figure out cliques which can justify our own approaches that, hey, this is B2B, we go for logic, or that, hey, this is B2C, we go for something crazy there, right? So things are fast. It's marketing. The thing with marketing is that every time that it starts working, people realize that they're being marketed or sold to, and then that particular method stops working. You have to push the boundary there and step into the next frontier to sort of go from there, right? And yeah, that's one of the things we have to do. We have to continuously move, but keep the customer at the center of it. So it's me moving from B2B to B2B probably.
Yes. And it'll keep moving. As you crack one, you get to the next big problem that's there, and somebody solves it, and that becomes the norm.